Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Dinozor Gaming, where we learn to be a better player. Today we're going to be watching the first matchup of the top 8 of Montreal's Planetary Qualifier from this past weekend, held at face-to-face. And this is going to, like I mentioned, this is going to be the top 8 matchup, and it's going to be between Mythic Force's Sneeny, Mythic Force being one of the strongest teams up here in Canada, facing off against yours truly, Order 514 Dino. And I can't promise that I won't be biased, but I will give my point of view on how this matchup was played. So of course, Sneeny here on Sabine ECL, a deck that has been a strong contender for top decks since the start of the game, having insane aggressive options, and on top of that, some very cool new cards from Secrets of Power like Charismatic that are able to help out close the game out even faster. And on the left, yours truly playing Snoke on red base. A deck that I believe is pretty good into the current meta here, and that's why I brought it. That said, both of these players are playing red-green. It's going to be a very aggressive matchup either way. It's very hard to guess who's going to be the beatdown in this situation. I think both players are simply going to be going to dish out as much damage as possible. And remember that in a top 8 situation like this, both players will have access to your opponent's deck list, so you will know what your opponent has going into it, and you can play accordingly. So a deck like this Snoke, while it is a good surprise during the Swiss rounds when nobody knows what you're playing, here my opponent was able to see exactly what I was playing and is able to change their game plan accordingly, and vice versa. A great example of this would be the fact that I started by a space unit like Kylo's TIE Silencer because I noticed that in the Sabine deck there are not a lot of space units. Alright, that said, let's move on into the second turn here, where we're simply seeing players dish out some damage. That Nemec is matching the Kylo's TIE Silencer at the moment, just 4 damage on each player's space. And we're going to see a resupply from Snoke, opting to give away some of the board presence in order to deploy a bit faster, something that is absolutely mandatory in this matchup. And Sabine opts to dish out as much damage as possible, using that leader ability every single turn and playing a Fighters for Freedom. A very strong card with Saboteur that is pretty handy in the current meta with a lot of shielded units. And it is a unit we haven't seen too much of since set 1, but still a good one. Every time you play an aggression card, you'll be dealing an extra point of damage to your opponent's base. That said, we are at the 5 resource turn here for Snoke, and one of the main advantages of ramping in a Snoke deck is that you have access to both Craving Power and Overwhelming Barrage. So the odds of you having one of those as soon as you get to 5 is pretty high. And indeed, we're going to see that Craving Power come down, finish off that Fighters of Freedom, guaranteeing no damage output from it. And on top of that, boosting the TIE Silencer up to a 5/4. Now, why is that so important? It's because 4 health is precisely the amount that Sabine is not able to deal with in space. As I mentioned, you're able to look at your opponent's deck list. So when looking at it, you noticed I noticed that most of their space units only have 3 power. So even if they use ECL, it's unlikely for them to be able to deal with that unit, so that Kylo's TIE Silencer is going to stay there until the end of the game, and it's going to really help win the race. That said, we do see Sabine deploy here, playing that Jar Jar Binks and the Yoda's Lightsaber, bumping that Sabine up to a potential 8 damage swing, taking the base for Snoke from 9 all the way up to 18. Seems like there was a very tiny miscalculation there, unless I'm not good at math. Yeah, I think the ping from Sabine was forgotten here. That said, we're going to be moving on to the next turn here, and this is the 6 resource turn. This is exactly when Snoke deploys. We're going to hope that that one little damage missing is not going to be a difference. Spoiler alert, I was in this game. It will not. That said, 6 resources, and the initiative still stays with Snoke here. And while that Jar Jar did give a lot of power bonus to Sabine, that power does not stick around, so a well-timed Overwhelming Barrage like this is able to clear out a lot of the board. We have 7 damage coming in, and that's exactly enough to kill both Sabine, even with the Lightsaber, and that Jar Jar Binks. And so now Sabine only has 3 damage showing in play, while Kylo is currently... Kylo's Silencer is currently showing 7. On top of that, Snoke is able to use the leader ability, bump that up to 8, and then when Snoke deploys himself and swings, we'll bump that up to a 9. That Silencer is simply going to hit really, really hard. That said, Sabine hasn't spent any resources yet, and not able to deal with it. One of the main reasons why the Snoke has opted not to deploy just yet is because you know that your opponent has an ECL. Your opponent is at 5, so if you give him a target to ECL, that Poe Dameron can come out. If you don't wait for Snoke's deploy, your opponent can ECL a Poe Dameron, discard 2 cards. One of them will kill your Snoke after the swing, and the other one will be able to get rid of that craving power, really pushing the race in Sabine's advantage. And because you don't want to deal that, Snoke here is going to delay as much as possible, make your opponent spend their resources, and then you deploy. So indeed, yeah, we're going to see that Poe Dameron come down here. So now it is safe to deploy Snoke. That's likely what we're going to see here. Just counting out the math here, that Snoke does indeed come out, and Sabine is probably going to claim initiative at this point. Doing the math here, yeah, ECL is at 11. 4 from Snoke, bumping that silencer up to a 9 damage output, is just barely 1 shy of finishing the game. Now that might be a little bit dangerous potentially. It's not likely for your opponent to be able to deal 10 damage in a single swing, but it is not impossible. So opting to simply not hit the base here, just doing a very quick revert, doing some quick mental maths here. I don't know if hitting Karis here would make a big difference. And I believe the math while I was making this decision was the fact that, oh hey, maybe we can get a Rebel Assault, but I simply forgot that Poe Dameron was not a Rebel. But hey, after playing for 10 hours during a day, you tend to make some small mistakes. It is to be expected. That said, Sabine had already claimed initiative, so killing that Karis Nemec is not the end of the world. That spy token will come, but it will not be able to attack right away. And you're already going to be dealing a ton of damage with that silencer and setting up lethal on the next turn. So it doesn't really matter if that Snoke doesn't do its extra 4 damage. So indeed, we're going to see 9 damage go onto Sabine's base here, putting it up to 20, guaranteeing that if that silencer is not dealt with immediately, the game is over. That said, there is 10 damage currently on Snoke's base, so a well-timed heroic sacrifice on that Poe Dameron would be enough to end the game. Poe Dameron would swing for 6 plus 2 from the heroic sacrifice and discarding another card for that last 2, and that would be a very devastating and fast win here. But did Sabine draw that heroic sacrifice? Or aggressive negotiations? There are many options at the moment to get extra damage. Now, even if Poe Dameron were to swing on Snoke here and discard a card to get rid of that craving power or get rid of an experience, that Chaos TIE silencer would still be showing just enough damage to finish the game here. You can remove +2/+2 of that craving power, and that silencer would still remain as a 5/4, exactly enough to finish off Sabine. So unless you have a pump here, I don't think there is a way out for Sabine. And now it seems like Poe Dameron is going to be attacking base here and getting rid of that craving power, but both players realize that silencer is enough to finish the game. And so that is going to be it for game number 1. And with that, folks, we're going to be jumping into game number 2 here. Both players have opted to side in and side out some cards, hoping to turn that matchup into their favor. Let's see if that's going to change anything up here. Now, the initiative this time around is with Sabine Wren, and we're going to be seeing a Phoenix Squadron come down. This time opting to not give full space dominance to Snoke, and a good choice, as we do see the Special Forces TIE Fighter come in. Doesn't do anything special, it's just another 2/3 in space, and it is villainy, so Snoke is able to buff this up. So unless that squadron opts to get rid of it immediately or attack, there's a very real chance that the TIE Fighter is able to trade into it with inexperience. Nope, it looks like Sabine is opting to go pure damage, and so indeed we're going to see 5 damage to dealt to that base with the use of Fleet Lieutenant, but Snoke answers by giving an experience to the TIE Fighter, able to clean up that Phoenix without actually dying. Now, of course, Sabine uses the leader ability to ping the bases here, and the initiative stays with Sabine, but with 2 resources open, Snoke is able to drop another unit here, potentially enough to, maybe contest that Fleet Lieutenant. We do have that new Imperial Dark Trooper that is also a 3/3. But already on the damage, we see Snoke is a bit behind, so gonna have to play a bit of control here. Villainy comes down, able to steal an XP from a friendly unit, or move it around rather, on played or on attack. Opts not to at the moment, because if you do move that experience from the TIE Fighter, it would immediately get defeated. Let's not say die here, of course. That said, we are moving on to resource turn number 4 here, and we have not had a ramp from Snoke. That is unfortunate. You do need that ramp to get your leader out as fast as possible. Snoke is very strong, but a 6 deploy is pretty late in the current meta, in any meta, honestly. When you're deploying at a 6 resource or later, you need to make sure that you can either survive or that your leader deploy has a big enough impact. Snoke's deploy doesn't, so you want it as fast as possible so you can start building up as much as possible. That said, we're just going to see a swing here from Sabine and another experience from Snoke. Now with that second experience on the TIE Fighter, Villainy is going to be able to attack and steal one without defeating the TIE Fighter and clean up that Fleet Lieutenant. Very interesting play. Once again, that Sabine is going to be flipped, and again, Jar Jar Binks is played here, buffing that Sabine up to become a 4/7. Now deciding here from Snoke whether it's worth to finish off that Fleet Lieutenant or deal a bit of damage to that Sabe. We are absolutely going to be stealing an experience from the TIE Fighter here, at least to bump up the attack to a 3. And indeed get rid of the Fleet Lieutenant here, just one less threat on the board for next turn. And Sabine's going to swing this time around, no Yoda lightsaber, so it's just going to be a quick 5 damage. This time we did not forget that one little ping. But an open fire is played here, dealing 4 damage to Sabine. Very interesting choice here. And with 2 resources open, Sabine was unlikely to end the turn. Obviously going to be playing something, so that open fire was clearly played to soften up the board. We are onto the 5 resources turn here, and so an overwhelming barrage is able to clear out the entire board. Only 1 health left on Sabine, 1 on Jar Jar Binks, and 3 on that Marine. And both of these units are currently at 3 power, so an overwhelming barrage dealing 5 would clean out the entire thing. And indeed, that's what we see here. No matter who you put it on, 5 damage is going to clean it up. So now it's a question of deciding where to put this, and where to put it does make a big difference, because now you are at 5 resources here. You are very behind on the base as Snoke, already 15 damage, that's half of your life total already gone. Your opponent does still have access to Energy Conversion Lab. So if you put this on Villainy, for example, there's a good chance that your opponent uses Energy Conversion Lab, finishes off that Villainy, discards a card to finish off that TIE Fighter, and then you have to somehow deal with a Poe Dameron that has a bit of damage on it, but there's not many ping effects in the game at the moment, especially not for a Villainy red-green deck. And so, indeed, we're going to be seeing a Poe Dameron, but it's not going to be Energy Conversion Labbed out. It seems that the player here is saving the Energy Conversion Lab, probably for a record that's going to come down next turn, but I think that was a big mistake, because now, at 5 power, that Villainy is able to attack Poe Dameron, steal the XP from the TIE Fighter. The TIE Fighter will be defeated, but Villainy is going to be able to clear out that Poe Dameron. A very clever play here from Snoke, trading entire boards. Not ideal, but when you're behind, you need to do whatever you can to even out the playing field, and that's exactly what was done here. That said, now Sabine has the initiative, probably doesn't want it, so we're going to likely see a Sabine leader ping. The reason for that is if you are holding that record as I predicted, otherwise why would you not Energy Conversion Lab out that Poe? So you want to make your opponent play something first. So indeed, we're going to see the Sabine leader ability, and Snoke realizing this, and when I say Snoke, I mean me, apologies, this is a very strange casting opportunity. We're going to just see other units come down, and okay, some resources were spent, which means, nope, we are not going to be seeing that wrecker here, and so Snoke feels comfortable to probably deploy here, just spending some resources, seeing what your opponent is going to do next. We see that Sabine Wren come down, and finally, Snoke does deploy. Now, that said, with how slow Sabine was on this turn and how Energy Conversion Lab is still not used, I don't believe that there is a main reason for Snoke to attack anything other than the base. So we see a, let's call it war plate here to finish off that Sabine, and Snoke with his 5 power is going to probably attack base. Now the reason for this is that if you do attack that K2SO and you predicted clearly last turn that your opponent has a wrecker, that wrecker will be able to come down and use the when played ability to finish off the Dark Trooper and the ambush to finish off that Snoke. However, if you attack base instead, there is no way for that wrecker to clean out your entire board. Your opponent will have to choose which of the two they want to kill, and so if you play it properly, you will potentially have enough damage to finish the game. Now we're moving into the 7 resources turn here, and both players already at 15 damage on the base. Snoke has 16 actually. And this has become less of a race and more of a board presence kind of game. Sabine, while they had an explosive start, seemed to have slowed down a little bit in that turn where Poe was defeated. Snoke has somewhat stabilized here, but it's not always enough. Sabine is always able to find answers out of nowhere. The energy conversion lab really opens up some amazing possibilities here. Another Poe Dameron, for example, would be able to finish off that Snoke completely if necessary. Now, likely worried that K2SO will be defeated, it looks like Sabine opts to attack first, which is a pretty dangerous play here because now Snoke is able to attack for 6. Remember, he gives an XP to himself when he attacks, and that's exactly enough to set up a lethal from that Dark Trooper swinging. And now this means that unless Sabine is able to immediately kill off that Dark Trooper or set up a Sentinel, which is extremely unlikely, the game is going to go to Snoke. That said, Energy Conversion Lab is probably going to be used here. And because of the sequencing here, if you had attacked with the Dark Trooper first, the Poe or the Wrecker that is coming down would have been able to kill Snoke and stop your lethal. But because Snoke attacked first, if you do use Energy Conversion Lab and kill off that Dark Trooper, you cannot also kill off Snoke, which means that Snoke is able to simply claim initiative and go for the game here. If your opponent has already used 5 or 6 resources, it is extremely unlikely that they will be able to finish off your leader as well. So I believe this is kind of a checkmate situation here. We'll see if Sabine is able to find an answer otherwise. So indeed, that record does come down using that Energy Conversion Lab, and now is deciding how to sequence this. If you use the when played on Snoke, you'll take it down to 4 health remaining, and then you can ambush into it to finish it off. But like I said, if you do that, the Dark Trooper will be able to attack your base and finish the game. Alternatively, if you choose to ambush into the Dark Trooper or use the when played on the Dark Trooper, there is absolutely no way for Snoke to die. So I do not believe that there is a viable play here using Wrecker specifically to clear out that board here. That said, if Sabine, with that 1 resource open, is holding a daring raid, this is an entirely different situation entirely. That way you can use the when played on the Dark Trooper, ambush into Snoke for 7. Yes, you will lose your Wrecker, but then your daring raid will be able to come in and finish that up. And with a completely open board, there is a very good chance for you to win the game. And with that, I believe Snoke is simply going to claim initiative here. If that Snoke was dead, you'd have to play something. But nope, that's it. Snoke claims the initiative, and Sabine sees that there is no way out here. You cannot deal the remaining 4 damage on that Snoke with only 1 resource left open. And so even having played nothing this turn, Snoke is going to be able to start the next turn and swing at the base for a game. And that's going to be it for the top 8 matchup. Stay tuned for the top 4 and the finals coming in the upcoming days here. And honestly, guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to leave a like, a comment, and more importantly, subscribe so we can just keep doing this more and more for you guys. And I will see you guys next time.